Hello, everybody, and surprise, welcome to our first postseason exit interview. I need to tell the Discord that I'm going live, so give me 2 seconds. Um, at BBH 14 events, that is gonna do it. Okay, great. Now that got that taken care of, let me bring in the winner of Big Brother Hometowns 14. It's Ryan RT Taylor.
Is it obvious how desperate I am to defend my game that I messaged you immediately to do this after the season ended?
I don't think I don't think it came across as that to me, but now the whole world knows because you said that. So,
No, I was just hypothetically speaking, I'm
like,
not like we could have done this in like a year and a half.
right, yeah, oh yeah, could you imagine a year and a half from now and then being like, "You remember that time?"
Remember that time when I was like kind of there for a day and did
No,
that move?
don't, don't.
Hey,
Anyway, congratulations on being crowned the winner the other night. A great final questioning from you. Honestly, it was very well done, and I think that it was the factor in you getting those 5 votes that you needed to get the win.
yeah, I go into everything I do with a lot of confidence. I just think like I need to carry myself that way. And I went into that jury question being like, "Oh, I can genuinely beat Angelica." I thought she played a far worse game than Erica. I thought that I at least knew her flaws more than Erica's, at least at a surface level. So I was like, "I'm set." And then it ended, and I remember immediately going into my prod chat. I'm like, "I just lost." I was like, "I just got the floor wiped with me," because
Mm,
just like every juror came in there, and at least how they presented their questions was seemed very against me, and Angelica killed her answers. But like talking to the handful of jurors that voted for me after, they're like, "You hit exactly what I wanted to hear."
mhm.
So I won't say I lucked out, but I'm glad that I was able to bring it home because I think it was a game deserving of winning. So I'm glad I gave them what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, I think I think when I did the jury roundtable the day before the finale, um, I I asked them of each person, I said, "What do they need to do in order to get your vote?" And everybody who ended up ultimately voting you wanted to hear you show self-awareness about your game. They wanted to see that you know, own the flaws of your game that they had perceived.
Flaws?
They wanted to feel like you had the same flaw that you understood that you had the flaws that they said you did, right? Like that's how like any jury wants to just feel like, heard or but like that their feelings are valued or whatever. And so that's what they wanted and you gave that to 5 of them and ultimately secured the victory.
If there's one thing I am, it's self-aware. I don't think I'm ever not self-aware. I knew going in there what I was doing wrong the whole time. I just was hoping that the highlights outdid the flaws. So
Right. Um And I think, like, I mean, for you, a season of like really high like moments, like I'm going to remember looking back on this season, the multitude of times that you had your back up against the wall and you pull out a clutch veto win. I mean, the way that you absolutely destroyed Stay or Fold, like, is really incredible. Your brain just works really, really well for things like that, and
I
you
I
got
remember when so the funny thing about the season, like looking back especially, is like one the rumor that I'm a BBH super fan. Because I followed one season, and that's pushing it in terms of saying I even followed one season. I more just read through the Facebook group once and saw competitions, and it's funny because that's what drew me into apply. I was like, these seem so fun. I honestly think I'd be good at a lot of them because they're just most of them are in my wheelhouse. But I came into the game like so like oppositely wanting to play a different way. I was like, I think the line I kept saying to you guys was, I came in here wanting to play like Crystal, and I've been pushed more and more into having to play like Susie. And I think they probably both hate that comparison. That's how I was speaking about my game. Um, but I don't know. It's like it was a weird feeling hitting the end. I was like, I wished so much that I could have said I played the game a different way and not had to rely on competitions. But also reading back, I was like, holy crap, my back was against the wall even when I don't think I even realized it a little bit yet. But
Mhm,
I think a lot of things that, like, someone even with Jack and his jury vote loved is that when I was against the wall, I knew. Like, in one way or another, I had just enough of a social relationship to know that I needed that win. Um,
mhm.
which to them, they probably thought, "Oh, that's why he went so hard." But in reality, if I was in a competition, I can't help myself.
Right.
Like, praise the Lord that the veto draws pre-jury hated me, because I would have been gone a lot earlier.
I, I'm I'm struck by, like, sitting here talking to you as the winner because, just, literally a week before the game starts, we're sitting on a couch we're in my car driving to get Advil for me because I was incredibly hungover. We were the
Mhm.
only 2 people awake in Nashville. And we were talking about, like, you playing, and you're like, you told me, you're like, "I'm either gonna be the first boot because 'cause I'm gonna flame out and be chaotic, or I'm gonna win." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And I really I mean, I went into the game thinking, like, I was so low on your chance to win, not because I didn't think you have what it takes to win, just because you kept telling me, "I'm going to be so chaotic, I'm gonna target all of my friends, I'm not going to be, like," and like your strategy coming in was so like the opposite of you know what what you ended up ultimately doing. Um,
Well, it's when the season ended immediately, I was talking to Lee and Susie, they're like, "None of Prod picked you for their draft teams." I was like, "Yeah, that adds up." I was like, everything that I said to Prod preseason was that they should have just removed me from the cast. They should have taken the first alternate, switched them out with me, and then ran the season. So I was like, that does not surprise me that I wasn't picked. But I don't know what it is. Honestly, the longest time I was gonna stick to that. I think it would have been so funny to just immediately put up Angelica and Erica on my second HO on the first HOH. I think that would have been great and great TV, at least for a me sense. I would have been cackling the whole round no matter what happened. They could have both it could have been a Jack HOH, and I still would have thought it was the funniest thing ever. Um, but I think I honestly was no, I'm not a liar. I am a liar, but I think it honestly was the Plague HOH that, like, that swung it for me because I was on vacation for that whole round. I was genuinely in the pool for the whole Plague competition, and I made it to the end with, like, little plan, and then found myself in an alliance.
right.
That's not it was not an alliance. And at that point, I'm just like, "Shit, okay, maybe I actually am in, like, a decent spot, whether or not it's because these people are familiar with me or if, like, I left a decent enough first impression, I was like, "I can't come out this big
Right.
at the beginning." So, and I think I still stuck to my word in the sense of, like, not playing with my friends. I think a lot of the allies I tried to prioritize early on were people that I had never met before. Um, but it is gross that I had to sit at final 3 with Angelica and Erica. I did hate that. Even till the last minute, I wanted to go to the end with AJ and Danielle,
Yeah.
who, like, did I know was gonna beat me? Yeah, probably, but it was, like, the pure, like,
Hmm.
morals of it, like, it never sat right in my stomach to be sitting there with Angelica and Erica at the end.
Right. I I so you tell me this was my read, and this was like this just from my perspective of what was happening. I because I think one thing I appreciate about you is you come into these things with the desire to have fun. You come in with the like you want to have a good time, and I think you kind of thought you would come in and be like, "Oh, there's Angelica, there's Erica, it's on site." I mean, it's why we weren't worried about casting you together
Mhm,
because you were like, "It's on site. The minute I see them, I'm done." And then I think, like, you had a slower start than you anticipated due to being on vacation and not wanting to, like, take away from your vacation until you found yourself into a spot where you're like, "Oh, wait, I've actually, like, made it, like, 2 or 3 or 4 rounds in. I'm in a decent spot. Like, I think I could have a shot to, like, potentially make a long run, like, let me hold back, like, from going, like, all out, like, insane.
No,
That
abs I had to pick my battles is what it was more than anything else. Like, the fact that I couldn't call everybody pretty quickly, I think is, like, immediately what set me behind in this game. And because I really was, like, I exaggerated a lot in Final Jury question, but, like, my name was out there early enough, like, Tommy was pushing it, I'm sure I was getting tied to people as soon as that Plague Doctors Alliance got revealed, but, like, I had to kind of, read the room a little bit, like, I could tell that Angelica had higher priorities. Like I knew, it's like she came to me with that alliance in like round three. She's like, I really want to play with this person, this person, this person, this person, and I didn't have any relationship with any of those people at that time. Like I liked Danielle, I liked Robert, but like right away I was like, okay, the people that I thought I was going to be able to mess with the first few rounds are like actually in decent spots. But people are still approaching me when they win HOHs and win vetoes, despite me being super inactive. It
mhm,
was like it would have been dumb for me to start to pick fights and play big because I don't do well in a lot of these. It's like I'm not very good at orgs. I know it's funny for the winner of this one to just be saying, but I'm really not good. I leave early consistently. I mean, I'm sure he said that in my application interview. So to have like that glimmer of like a good position and like that I would actually be able to get to the point where I knew I could strike and then start to play just like
mhm,
fuck you to the world or whatever.
right,
I think I just like was like, all right, let's buckle down. I can actually have a chance here. And I mean I still fought to get the people that I felt the best with to the jury. I stand by that. I think the jury phase was exactly who I would have wanted to sit there. I don't think I would have swapped anybody out.
okay. Um, let me take a brief intermission to show all these Facebook user comments. Listen, Facebook users, and I peeped the actual page. It's Danielle and Rick are watching.
Ah!
So Danielle, Rick, go to let's see, where's that banner? Let's see. Oh, go to streamyard.com/Facebook. Um, and you'll be able to link your account so that when you comment, when Ryan says something that annoys you, you can comment and let us know what he's wrong about, and then and then we'll know it's you. Um,
Oh no.
no, I'm just kidding. But for real, if you're out there watching, there's been a couple Facebook users, so we always like to plug that. It's a good time. We got a lot of new viewers that came to watch the finale, so it was really, really great. Um, let's see what do I want. I mean, Let's go back to the beginning. I think like you talked a little bit about round one, finding yourself in the position with the plague doctors, which was the alliance that
The
the
the the
alliance that
worst
never.
the worst alliance in any reality competition, any reality it was terrible. I mean, like, was I ever gonna say no to it? No. And was I always gonna push Abby as the one that wanted it more than anybody else? Absolutely. I mean, I I really liked Daniel. I think he was, like, the one person in Alliance who I actually had, like, a decent working relationship with pretty early on. Um, Maybe Jabbar a little bit, but even that was like he was fighting for me to talk to him, and I just was not giving him much early on, and I felt bad because of it. But like Abby and Tommy, I just kind of got tossed in there. I was like, all right, we kind of just skipped over Danielle. Like this justification for this chat makes no sense. We're gonna be so fucked if one person mentions this to anybody. Um, but that's like I think that's when I started my whole make an alliance, sell out an alliance thing pretty quickly. Like anyone that asked me about Abby or Daniel or the Tommy rumors pretty early on, I was like, yeah, they gotta go. They gotta break them up. Um, which that's when I think I got in that mindset of like, let's just be as honest as possible. Let's be open with anything I have for the most part. Like, not leaking alliances, but I was telling people I didn't like them. I didn't feel good about it. Um, as soon as it was made. So
Mhm. You have a comment.
no. Honest answer, no, I'm sure I mentioned it to you at some point to
I
say that
think
the
it
young
was
people have to stick together.
yeah, I think it was you. It's supposed to be you,
Danielle and
Erica,
Erica,
Danielle, maybe one other person. I don't remember, but
not Jacob Sparks, probably some probably some jockey, I don't know, that my grandpa bets on. not Jacob Sports.
Um, okay, so let's get back more so because the second round you do win the HOH, you win the code breaker competition. And one of my favorite storylines of the season was tragically cut short because you put up your Gleek. And my favorite storyline of the early game was you lying to Julia about about being a
Well,
Glee fan
well,
for
that's like
literally no reason.
I listen, I think anybody in the cast can testify to how hard it was to get a conversation out of Allie or Julia. And when I don't even know how it came up. I think I mentioned the show once, and like I could see in the chat that her ears perked up. I was like, "Oh, okay, I got something." So I was like, let me just ride with this. I know like of the show. I know they sing. I know they go to a high school. I get it confused with Degrassi sometimes. I think Drake's in Glee a lot of times, but I have to remind myself that that's a different show. Um, but yeah, I hated that. I mean, not the I love the alliance. Like I was so honest when I said that I would have gone all the way to the end with Julia just for the bit that I ran a Gleek alliance till the very end. Like, how do you not vote for that guy at the end? Like, I could have played no game at all, and if I was just like, yeah, listen, I kept up a Glee lie all season. Like, I'd vote for that person just to be like, wow, kudos to you for lying about Glee for a whole 30 days. Because it's
Yeah.
it's exhausting, and I only did it for a round and a half.
But
Like
but the way
the
that
amount
you
of the amount of episode summaries that I had to read.
the way that you absolutely destroyed her in the game by nominating her. Like, it
Well, so
completely took the entire wind out of her sails, and she just gave up afterwards. Because like, the one person that she felt good about
yeah,
nominated her.
it didn't feel good, and I think that I was in a good enough spot at that time where I know a lot of people everybody would have told me to put up Julia. Like, if I did that round where I said, "Who should I put up? Who do you not talk to?" And everyone said Julia, but not for the reason that they weren't talking to her, it was because she didn't compete in that HOH. And at that point in my head, I'm like, and I'm said to everybody, like, there was no justification at that point. Like, it made no sense for me to show my hands that much and being connected with somebody. Like, all that would have been was being like, "Hey, none of y'all are close with Julia, and I have her." I don't want to say in my pocket because that's not how it is. She was very much playing her own game, and I do think a lot of the reason that she did like kind of disappear that round was because I kind of like
Oh,
I
it
killed
was
her
like,
spirit.
it took completely took the wind out of her sails. Because I
Right, but
think I think you were the only person that was, like, really trying with her at the time.
and that's why I did feel so bad. But in terms of like I said, I got in that headspace of longevity. And for myself, like that longevity was only going to come if I wasn't showing my hand that early. And it only made sense to put up Nikki and Julia because that's what everybody wanted. Um, but yeah, it sucked. That was like the first hit to me in the game. Like I know a lot of like the emotional turmoil for me hit later on in the game, but putting up Julia sucked. Like
Mhm.
in every sense of the word. Um, because I fought for her like hell that first round too. I was telling everybody, I'm like, no, I was pushing the BS that Ali was a returnee and we should give new people like a chance, which was always gonna be my motto. But the fact that it was Julia against him too, I was like, okay. Um but yeah, I felt terrible. I still feel terrible that I went about that. Because again, it was like I immediately was going against my preseason word. I was like, I want new people to have a chance. And
Yep.
then she just didn't show up. And like I'm only gonna fight for someone to a point.
Yeah, I mean,
It didn't seem like she wanted to be there because everyone fought more for her the first round, and then after having her ass up against the wall, didn't show. I was like, okay, it was battles that I had to be able to pick, and that wasn't one that seemed worth it at the time.
right. Um, so what I think you did really well in the pregame, and I have fought production members a lot about this, was I always felt like you were active. I never felt like you were inactive in the pre-jury, but I feel like you gave this very, like, good you had this very good line about being like being less active than you actually were, and I feel like you sold it really well to people. Was that
Yeah, I
intentional?
no, I yeah, no, absolutely. I think it kind of ties into where my big thing was if people felt like I think I honestly had this conversation with Angelica, and she was like, "You're killing it because of this." It was that everybody knew that I was missing. So if I was telling them anything, or if I was talking to them, they viewed it as more important to them as it really was. Like they were under the impression that I was so busy. Like, I made sure I would have, like, hour-long slots in some of my nights, and I'd be like, "I got 15 minutes. I can be in and out, my friends are downstairs, and I can, like, hop away and talk to you real fast. Because like, to me, that was like, "This person's gonna feel like a priority to me." Like, I'm taking time out of my night, out of, like, my friends to, like, come and talk to them even for a little bit. And anything I said on that call, I tried to say with such straightforwardness and honesty that people would like take it at face value and would take it for what it was, which was it was the truth for pre-jury. Aside from like the little lies, like saying I liked Popeye chicken nuggets and saying I liked Glee, I think for the
I
pre-jury, I did stick fully to the truth. And I think it's honestly what helped what helped me have at least that little bit of grasp onto loyalty that I wasn't able to get with like full 2 hour long calls that other people were able to have.
Yeah, I think you capitalized on the time that you had and the time that you were willing to put in. I think you made good inroads, and I think you did a good job of being like 3rd or 4th. You were never on the bottom of anyone's list. Like,
All I ever
and
wanted to
that's
be was
the
third or
place to
fourth.
be. Yeah, you just needed to be 3rd or 4th so that you weren't ever an option to nominate or to renom, and then you just so that you could get to a point where you could turn it on, like you said. So, and I think you accomplished that. I think, I mean, again, tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like you know the fault of your game in season 14. So we don't need I'm not going to sit it's not my job to sit here and like chastise you for that. But I think I'd be curious to know when you realized that that was going to be an issue for you. Like where like the social like you said I can't be on call with for 2 hours like some of these people. Like where when did you realize that would be an issue, and how did you think it was going to affect you, or when did you realize it was affecting you?
I think honestly, I never viewed it as a negative for a large portion of the game because I think even preseason, when I've played other games, a big thing that has screwed me early on is that like anybody knows I'm a big personality. Like I don't shut up. I never hide behind my words. Like if I'm saying something, I'm standing behind it 1,000%. Like I always say, like, I don't use the word hate or love because it's too strong. Like I use everything very particularly in what I say. And so I need to be conscious of what I say in my words. So I think being inactive was not sorry, I was never inactive the whole game.
Right.
Being busy and being less active than other people, I honestly think helped me early on. I think obviously I didn't have the worries of the competitions early, but by not being like a big voice and being like in everybody's inboxes was the best strength for me. I think that it wasn't a problem for all pre-jury. Like you said, I got to the position where all I really wanted to be was someone's 4 or 5. In a 16-person game, I had no issue just falling as someone's little priority because I knew I later on
Mhm.
I could win competitions and hopefully get myself bumped up a little bit because I kept saying if I win an HOH, I'm only making 2 people mad. I'm making 13 or 10 or 9 other people a little bit more happy with me. Um, I think obviously when it became an issue, as soon as Live Night hit, I was like, "Oh, Robert's targeting me." I didn't bullshit him well enough the past few rounds. I didn't think I was honestly. I knew he was close with everyone. Like that was like the first kick in the gut. I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
It's hitting the point in the game where my loose connections are very much slipping by the strong connections that people have with others in this game." Um, and then right after Live Night, like the 3 waves of different rumors about me
Well,
and
it
my
didn't
game.
matter. It didn't
Right.
matter at that point. I mean, literally, after Live Night was over, you won a competition every single round.
At a fault of their like, I was amazed that they would just put me up straight up. Like, I know that early in the game that Tommy and Nikki and Angelica and Erica were telling plenty of people I'm good at comps, like, they've seen me do it many a time, and that's why I'm amazed that as soon as jury hit, my ass was not an initial nominee every round. Like, when they still had people like Jabard or or Daniel to fight me in a comp, they just didn't do it. And,
Mhm.
like, like, all my veto confessionals are me laughing at the camera. Like, I'm not a malicious I'm not cocky like that, but all I could do is laugh because I was like, "How am I not getting like, why am I not getting backdoored?" Which, like, I would like to credit to me trying to set that standard of, like, I think backdoors are dumb and disrespectful. I'm not gonna backdoor any of y'all, so I hope you have the same level of respect for me to not backdoor me. Um, which, like, some HOHs told me, they're like, "I'm gonna put you up straight because you put me up straight." So, hopefully that's what the case was. I don't think it was. I think they genuinely just weren't thinking. Um, but yeah, I think to answer your question that you asked probably like 3 minutes ago, I think it kicked in right at live night when, like, again, I knew my social relationships were my half-assed ones weren't enough. Um, which again, like I said, at that point, I wasn't worried if they were enough.
Mhm. The way that you were some of those suspect answers that you gave for touchy subjects, like like, we were watching on the live stream and we're like, "What the kinda answer is that from RG?" Like, does he not realize that he's in danger? Like and, like, that's why, like, for me, I was like, I wanted to know the answer to that because, like and it's curious you say that because like, you threw the HOH at Live Night.
What? No, I was trying. I really thought Julian was the most robbed pre-juror, Mitchell. What are you talking about? Um, yeah, no, I think I too blatantly threw that HOH. But yeah, no, I didn't know I was in danger at all. I thought I felt good enough with enough people at that live night, um, that I would have been able to sneak through, until Daniel told me as soon as Daniel won, he's like, "Yeah, if Robert won, you were screwed." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
Um,
I don't remember the full story behind, like, what Robert would have actually done had they won or, like, if Robert really was throwing, like, your name because I know that Daniel I believe Robert was saying your name to Daniel.
I assume Robert backdoors me, though. I don't think I even have a chance to play in that
I
veto if
don't
Robert
think so
wins
either.
HOH.
No, I think
I
that's
think Robert would have been the one person to recognize that, especially when I told everybody going into the night that I knew what the power veto competition was for the most part. I don't think there's any chance that he would have put me up straight. I think I probably leave that night if anybody else wins HOH.
and then, I mean and it would have been great timing for you because that was, like, right as your hell week
Yeah,
for
for my mental health would have been amazing. For sure, would have been an amazing spot. I would not have had any qualms with that. Jury roundtables would have been shit to plan, but other than that, I would have been a much healthier person right about now.
Um, but alas, that's not what happened, and Daniel wins, he keeps you off the block. Robert goes home, one of the people who was, like, actively saying your name, and I think from then on, I think you do rise as a target level just because people are unsure where you're at. I don't think people left Live Night wanting to target you just to target you because they wanted you out of the game. I think from my perspective, and I think from production's perspective, you were too much of a unknown. They were like, "Well, okay, we've reached past the person. We've slaughtered the dragon, right? We got rid of Nikki and Tommy. Not yeah, Nick we got rid of Nikki and Tommy. We got rid of Abby. Like Daniel is left helpless. We don't have to worry about him. Who's the last piece on the table that we don't really know where their head is at, and it's Ryan. So I think, like, that is to me is the story of why you find yourself in a bad position, in at the 10-9 spot because they didn't know what you would have done. Nobody had a solid, like, thing with you.
Right. Again, I think it was another piece of, like, my half-assed stuff wasn't enough at that point. I think, like, I don't even think another HOH would have helped because all that was doing was I was asking everybody what they wanted, put up 2 people, and then just let the round be. I think, honestly, I that was my worst bit of gameplay was, like, going about that. What I thought I was doing was gathering information. Like, even the Erica Jabbar vote, they were like, "What are you gonna do in a tie?" And I was like, "No, play this round out, vote how you want, and then I'll vote." Which I think was, like, the dumbest thing I've done all game. I think I should have said, "Oh, I'll vote out Erica," and I think Erica leaves there. Because I think the 3 guys were willing to take the shot and vote.
I think
But
they were. I think Erica may have gone over Robert if somebody had,
oh, not no,
wanted. Oh, no.
Erica over
First.
Jabbar.
Oh, I mean, I think of both places, actually.
Right, and I think that's why for a while I operated how I did because everybody was scared to speak their mind. Like, the whole season was unanimous votes for the most part. Maybe a little bit towards the end game, we had 2 votes for people elsewhere, but the whole season was people just going with the status quo. Um, and so that's I stuck to it. For some of the votes, I would speak up because it was people that were against me. Like I spoke up for Allie to leave because I needed Julia. I obviously spoke up for Tommy to leave because his whole pitch was me leaving. I um I fought for Courtney to stay over Nikki because I knew that if people were against me, I wanted them gone. But once jury hit, I think I also viewed it as a strength to keep those unanimous votes a little bit because information was getting gathered, and it also took away everybody's claim of votes. No alliance, no a few individuals can be like, "Hey, this was my vote." It's like, "No, it wasn't.
Mhm.
8 people just voted for the same person. You can't claim this vote. We all wanted this person gone, and they're leaving." Like, what do you no and I knew if I was sitting at the end that, like, I could argue that point of, like, "Hey, my alliance did all this." It's like, "No, I it's the person that I left wanted every time too." But I think you're right in it because everyone said it, like, I think I needed to give people a little more, and I got that glimpse when, the algorithm was made, at least in a sense. Like, I think there was some sort of security, and then as soon as I nominated Jabbar, I think is when I lost any bit of people's read on me. Because
And
AJ and
yeah,
Danielle, there's no way AJ and Danielle trusted that alliance. I'm sure right away they were like,
they did not.
"Okay, this is sticking." Yeah.
They
So
already
I
had
think
an well, and they already had an alliance, or they wanted an alliance with Angelica and and Erica.
Erica. Right.
So they either had it or they were in the process of formulating it. I
So
think.
I'm sure as soon as that talk went around of that thing existing, and then I nominate Jabbar, then I think everybody sees me as like, "What is
Yeah.
this kid thinking? Like, why is he doing that?" So I don't think it was even bad that I went against that alliance. I think Jabbar was the best person to put up against Erica. But I think it took away anybody's read of like how I thought the end of the game was going, which was a little bit of a strength. In all honesty, maybe it's delusion because I think it's what kept Angelica as loyal as she was to me. Because by me being so unpredictable, it scared people to like kind of still be honest with me. Like I think it's what led AJ to tell me about the metadata. I think it's what had Angelica wanting to play the veto on me at 6 if she won. Like unpredictability is scary, but it's not awful when it's on your side.
Yeah. No, for sure. What I what I remember thinking through that period of time at, like, the final 9, the final 8, like, you were doing the things that I wanted you to be doing in searching for allies. You're like, "Danielle, let me use the veto on you to try and keep you close to me. Jabbar, oh, you have this secret power. Let's do something fun and crazy that will bond us together and build like a trust and a relationship." And I was like, okay, we're recovering. We're starting to get somewhere. And then you win your HOH. And I did not see the Erica Jabbar noms coming. I don't think anybody did. I loved it from, like, a stance of, like, those were 2 of the power players of the game.
Right.
Like, why how did you get to that decision, or why did you decide to do that, or
Well, I think it's a moment like that where confessional would have been really good to like quickly clear up like what my reasoning was. But it's but we get it now. I think it was at that point that I started to realize I was genuinely getting nothing from anybody. I felt like I had good relationships there, but the conversations I was having, and like at that point, I started to realize I'm like, shit. I know these people did not all get here because they're close with me. Like, there's very clearly other connections here, and probably kept asking me, they're like, "Are you worried about other groups?" And like, no, I never am worried about a specific group, but obviously there were connections there. And I think at that point I realized that I really wasn't a priority for anybody. That anything I was getting from people was just a little bit of surface level because they knew I was gonna start winning competitions. And so for me, those noms were like the start of like the like burn the world and anybody on it. Like I was just like, whatever, let's have everybody else show their hands. Like it was nothing against Erica or Jabbar. It was more like, I don't think I have a read on these people anymore. Let's make them show it. And like let's at least make them put their money where their mouth is for their own loyalties. And it worked for them. Like it helped me secure the fact that I'm like, all right, the girls are definitely together. Like Danielle and Angelica are clearly fighting for Erica. So I know that that girls alliance is actually like a decent thing right now and not just the girls make a chat because it was shortly after Courtney left, so I was doubting if that was even real. And then I knew that Daniel was somebody that viewed the game the same way as me because he fought for Jabbar to stay. Who I mean, they had that little bit of a connection, but I think in a different world, they all just save Erica in a normal sense. Um, but and even in its end result, it showed me that people were still playing scared. That everyone was scared of being in that minority position right there. Um, and at least let me I feel like that gave me a little bit of that bump to be like, "Okay, there's still a little bit of drive here." People are still open to do some things, but at least I know what I have to work with here, which is why I tried to have Daniel stay, I tried to have Lance stay the following rounds because I think everybody showed their hands on that vote, even if my desired outcome didn't happen.
Gotcha. Um, I mean, I talk us through. I mean, after that, I feel like you kind of realize like, oh, I'm on, I'm on my own now. Um,
Mhm.
and I think your suspicions were only confirmed at finals 5 when Angelica calls you and says, "Listen, Ryan, like we've been in an alliance the entire jury phase. Like, I'm sorry, I'm putting you up. Like, you know, like you obviously were not happy to hear that, but like what was your response to all of that? Like were you surprised? Were you
I mean,
shocked?
you know what my response to it was. My response was leaving every chat in the game and just being like, "All right, I'm done. It's just the only chat I need is my prod chat where I need to schedule my time for competitions. Like there no other chat is needed." I think it was a split feeling because I'm someone that'll always operate under game respects game. So to see that I got outplayed by an alliance of four making it there, I was like, respect, but it also sucked because it was at least with again, I didn't care that it was Angelica and Erica. I think they blew a lot of smoke on my ass. And I didn't really I only nominated Erica out of them. The rest of them like I looked out for. Danielle and AJ were people I was prioritizing the whole jury phase with Daniel. So it sucked. I really did get so downbeat as soon as I heard that. Like I think I took the rest of that night off after she told me, and I fully got into competition mode. I was like, the only thing I have to focus about now is taking my best guess at what I think the end game competitions are, and practicing like hell.
Mm,
Um, and after I took that night, I think I started to pitch to them at least for that next morning, and I could so quickly tell that all of it was falling on deaf ears. Like none of them are very good at BSing anybody. I mean, that's
mhm,
the whole story of the season is that no one could bullshit anyone for the life of them. And it even started as soon as I got put up in the triple, I knew where I stood because I would message people and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'd save you," and I'm like, "No, you're not." Like I would have felt better if when I was messaging people, they said, "No, I think I kind of like Jack a little bit more here." Like I would have been like, "Oh, that's more believable. Thank you for being honest with me." But they were all like, "Oh yeah, dude, you're safe against Daniel and Jack." I was like, "Okay, I'm fucked." This is very much just me versus everybody else here. Um, but Yeah, I don't think me knowing about that alliance strengthened my game. I don't think me knowing about that alliance gave me any more drive to do what I had to do. I think I was always gonna try and win everything out. I think, if anything, it got in my head. I think it if I was gonna slip up, it was gonna be because I was so beaten down at that point. Um, AJ's exit didn't help me at all, with getting cursed out like that as being the only person to just save him, and I get effed out on the whole exit. Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously I got through it, but it threw me off my whole mojo as like the person that like doesn't care about these, and I was like, ah,
Right.
whatever, like. But when I can only put in so much energy to talking to people, and I find out that all the people that I put my last bits of small time into were the ones targeting me, I was like, oh, okay, this sucks.
Yeah. Um, so here's what some maybe you don't know, or maybe I don't know if you figured it out yet or not, but or read it or seen it or listened to it somewhere. I we were rooting so hard for Angelica to win one of those vetoes at Final 6 or Final 5 because she wanted to take you down off the block
Oh, I
at
believe
6
it.
or at 5, and I thought that it was a fantastic move for her game if she'd have done that, but also B, it would have done wonders for your game to prove that you have a social relationship, you have some capital with people, someone wants to keep you in this game, and you are able to survive that, like, that target not by your own metric. And, like, I think I like you said, Angelica blew a lot of smoke up my ass. I don't necessarily think so. Um, I don't think she ever promised to go to the end with you.
Mhm.
So and she wanted to take you down. Now, Erica, on the other hand, Erica, I don't feel like you were in Erica's plans for a
Ever.
long time,
Yeah,
but
no,
but
at any
also
point.
but also to her credit, she was going to take you to the end. So,
So that I think I believed them at both times in that. I think I did sell the whole we'll get it I'm sure we'll get into the final 2 stuff. I believe that Ange would have taken me down. I think that's a point in the game where luck I don't think it was even luck, but I if she had gotten to the last 2 of a competition with me at that veto point, um, I would have considered it. I kept saying that in the end game, I would have loved to sit on a block and survive. Like, I think
mhm,
that was the last missing piece I needed to actually have, like, a little bit of a complete visible game because that's that social aspect that I ended up cutting Erica for. Like, I needed to show that some people had me as a priority, and it wasn't just competitions that got me there. And, um, all I could do was talk about it. Like, it was instead of having it in action, it was just my word. Like, me saying that Angelica told me she would have taken me down. Um, but I believe that she would have. I don't think the vetoes even lined up for them to really be ones that I could even read the fact if Angelica would have won it, if not for me. I don't remember the places she
the
got in
one
them.
well, at the final 6, she was the first person out,
Right.
and then at the final 5
But she saved me there. Like, by being the first I would have left if she didn't get out on the first question to stay or fold.
right. I think the final 5, it was you versus her
Let me
at the
see.
end.
I have it my notes are all I have them all written down what place people got. Because I'm a sad man and did nothing else for my job. Um, let's see. Which one you said final 5?
Yeah. I believe that it was you versus her in the
Um,
final of that veto.
I don't think so.
Wait, was final 5 the face morph veto?
Face Morph Erica got 2nd.
Yeah, that's true, that's
Angelica got 4th. Angelica got 6th in War, which she screwed me in.
true.
Yeah, no, I don't think it yeah, she never got 2nd in EVTO,
Well,
so
let
but
me
I agree, I do agree to on
yeah.
your point, I agree that I that's what I needed. I needed one little moment of someone using a veto on me or me surviving a vote, which, like, I kept trying to run through those scenarios. I was like, "Is it worth me risking one
Mm,
here? Like, should I let one slip by and am I gonna be in a position where I could survive against somebody? I think the closest I came was at, final 6. I think I would have run the risk sitting next to Lance, if anybody, just because that's when a lot of people were kind of pushing the story that out of respect for the rest of the final 5 that they wanted us all to sit there. Um, and that's also the final reason I decided against it, because if I said I survived that, the whole counter argument would have just been, "Oh, we did it out of respect for the whole final 5, not for you." And so it didn't come off as worth it.
Gotcha. Um, so ultimately, you are safe from elimination. When AJ goes home, when Danielle goes home. Did you ever feel like you? I don't think you would have wanted. You didn't want AJ to go. You voted to save AJ. Did you feel like you were just in a shit position and not able to influence what was happening with those votes? Like, did you just like what was going on and from your perspective?
The last the last glance of an impact in a vote that I felt like I had was when Daniel left. I because a lot of it was he spins things well in terms of votes. Like, he makes it sound like he's in a better spot than he was. Like, he would be like, "I think I had blah, blah, blah." But I think I also knew what the spot I was putting myself in at that point in voting to save him. But that was, like, the last glimpse I had in terms of, like, some other people may vote with me here. Like, some people may save Daniel. Um, I told him it was like, people were honest with me, they said they weren't, and I told Daniel that, but that's also where I kinda tried to start some form of jury management, and pushing that story of, like, I'm honest through and through, like, I'm gonna stick by my people. I don't
Mhm.
care if I'm voting in a 3 to 1 minority, I'm gonna stick by my word. Um
And I wanna point out for the record that I did come on a morning tea with CLC after the double eviction, and I said, "I'm ready to stand here and tell you that the best part of Ryan's game is his jury management." Like, it's not his competitions, it's not, like, obviously not the social, but, like, what the best part of his game is his jury management, and if he gets to the end and wins, it will be because of moments like this where you were honest, you were upfront, you laid it out there for everybody.
well, I had that line in my confessional where I was like, "They are filling this jury with people that value honesty, and they're bullshitting all of them out the door, and they're gonna let the one person who hasn't bullshit all season sit and talk to these people." And I think that the people that ended up voting with me are those that valued honesty the most. Like, I think Jack wanted me, like, I needed to be sincere with Jack on why I did the metadata stuff. I needed to explain to Daniel what my relationship was with him. I needed to, like, Danielle, I think, needed to hear about that aspect of my game. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think I had any say. I talked to Danielle after the season, and she was like, "You were falling on deaf ears for the whole jury phase." Like, and it's my fault that I got into that spot, which is why my story isn't as fun to root for, because it's not like Mike Holloway where he was playing well and then it's kind of they were all just like, "Fuck you, Mike," and then targeted him and he had to win out. I put myself in the spot and had to fight out from it. Still fun underdog, not as much of like a, "Wow,
Mhm.
I'm gonna cry at this story. This is so
Yeah.
inspirational," kind of thing. Um,
Uh, this is, production, this is the confirmation that RT did in fact go back and watch all the things that you guys said.
no, no, what? I didn't watch any of that.
Not you giving my analogy. Oh my Holloway.
Um, no, I didn't watch any. You guys said that? That's so nuts. Oh my gosh. I had no idea. Um, but yeah, I think the last shot I could give was in the AJ vote just to make someone else show their hands. Like, I didn't at that point I knew I wasn't gonna keep AJ. I knew that it was gonna go to a tie, but it made someone else show their cards, and I was like, maybe AJ will leave mad, and then AJ did leave mad, but it was all directed at me. So
Um, so let's talk finale. Um,
yeah,
you cut a deal with Erica. You tell Erica, "I'm sticking to the deal. We need to tell Ange it's only fair that we tell her." Um, and wait, no, pause. This is not what I said.
Yeah. As someone that hypothetically didn't watch that, that's not what Mitchell said.
Like, I was like, that is I said what made what makes this more compelling to me is that there is an alliance that he's fighting against. Mike Holloway, like, it doesn't matter. It's not worth it. I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight with Josh Consalvo on another stream. I am not doing it. This is my break. This is my opportunity to step away from the drama. I am not doing this. Um, let's talk finale. You're saying like, hey, we're going to, you know, like Ange, we're gonna tell Ange. You tell Ange that you guys have cut a deal. Erica and Angelica have a fight. Like, I'm sitting there on finale day, like sobbing, wishing Angelica could have a shot at the end, and then you change your mind. Why did you change your mind?
It Well, first off, I still feel bad about how that round went away because the whole time I was talking to Erica, I meant everything I was saying. Like, I think it's fair to have it to let both people know when they're coming into it of like write a speech, like take the time to prepare, and like, that's why as soon from the time the tiebreaker came to the time that I had to make my decision, my head was in my hands because like I knew that if I was gonna take Angelica, that I was like I had fully lied to Erica for 24 hours. Like I had made her fight with a close friend of hers. I had made her prepare a speech and to like get excited about sitting there. And it's like it felt like shit because I know how I would have felt if she did the same thing to me. But I think as cheesy as it came down to a thing of respect. And I meant what I said to Erica in her question to me, where she had played more of a game that I wanted to play. She had sat there and survived two unanimous votes on the block. She was someone that whose name was out there far more at phases in the game. I think she played more up front, which, depending on who you ask, maybe that's what the strength in Angelica's game was, is that she hid. But from a personal standpoint, Erica's game was one that I would have liked to play more. It was a game that I personally respected more, and I think that's what brought me down to cutting her. Like at that moment, I decided at that moment, and I wasn't thinking about jury votes. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, is Jack someone that's going to value being able to hide in the Russian doll strategy a little bit more? Um, but at the same time, I also could see more flaws in Angelica's game that at that moment I thought I could argue against. I thought I could argue against her little Russian doll strategy thing. I knew that she played with more friends off the bat, and that was something that wasn't a flaw with my game. Like she openly admitted in final questioning, she's like, I played with Robert right away because I knew him. And I was like, thank you. There's a check that I can just dig into for the next three questions. And I just on the top at that moment when I was making that decision, couldn't run through as many things that I could attack with Erica's game. At the same time, I knew I was running a risk that Angelica can talk better than anybody can. Like she knows how to pitch a story and pitch a case. I've seen her have be in a final tribal and almost flip a whole vote. Um, but it was a risk I was willing to take. I kept saying the whole season that I'm the best bullshitter I know. Um, so
Okay.
yeah, I
I
felt it felt like shit. I knew I was losing at least one vote there, no matter what. I knew like I was never gonna have Angelica's vote or Erica's vote. Um, but at the same time, like I'll say it, it also was nice knowing that I was throwing both of them off their mojo. Like I'll be that asshole and say it. I knew one of them was prepared and one of them wasn't. It made the
well,
decision a little bit easier too.
and okay, that was what I hypothesized. Like right after
Yeah,
it
that was
happened.
the smallest piece of it.
Like
Genuinely, it really was.
I just was curious if you'd have had that plan like the whole day, like the
Mm-mm.
whole 24
No,
hours prior. Like it's a really smart move. Like, Erica, we're taking them. Let's tell Ange not to prepare. Then Erica, does her thing, and Angelica doesn't, doesn't prepare, and then switcheroo, she's
the
unprepared.
the first day when I made the deal with Erica, no intention of it. When I woke up the next morning and I had slept on it, I was like, okay, now I've won part two. Now it's actually in action. Let me actually start thinking through these options again. I wanted, like I said, my game was being adaptable, and so I was fighting that whole time to guarantee my spot to sit here. And so making that deal with Erica before we had the 2 parts of the HOH was needed. Like, she wouldn't have believed my word if I came to her after she won part 1 and said, "Hey, let's do this." So after I locked down part 2 and it was that last day, I started to think through stuff and I was like, "Oh, it is good, like, I know Angelica's I think I can beat Ange, but she's a better talker. Let me throw her off her mojo there a little bit and not let her get everything set out in notes and prepared." Um, I so it wa I would never admit that, at least when she asked me why I did it.
Right.
But I'd also, like, I'd be foolish not to know that I was kinda helping myself out in that sense. Um, but I think it was, like, probably an hour before that I think I started getting in my head, I'm like, "Okay, I have to cut Erica." But even at the same time, I almost did sit there and throw that last HOH just so, like we said, I could have that last moment of, like, I got brought
Yeah.
here. Like, I played to the point.
Mhm.
But what ultimately led me away from that is, like, Erica said like, she said it loud herself, she's like, "We had the deal," which I thought gave enough confirmation to people that that move was still a thing. I was like, "Okay, maybe they can see I still would have gotten brought by Erica if she won." Um, and she said she would have. I still feel terrible about it as a friend of Erica's, but I didn't play this game like a friend the whole time, so I it was a game decision through and through. Plus, it was fun to blindside Prod like I had been the whole season.
I
That was funny.
listen, I was absolutely shocked. I was shook. I was on the jury call and I was on like Zoom with the jury and you're like, "I have to evict Erica." And I was like, they were all like like cuz they were expecting it. They from their perspective, they were all like, if Erica loses, she's done. Like Eric they cuz they were they were pro Erica, but they also had a lot of questions about Erica's game. But they
Mhm.
they felt like she played the more like you said, she played the more visible game between the two of her and Angelica, and
Yeah, I
uh,
guess we see now that a visible game is what they respected. So I thank goodness I made the call I did because I would have been fighting against another visible game.
yeah, for sure. Um, so what was your ultimate goal during the finale that you were trying to articulate and get across to the jury?
Anything but comps. And thank goodness for their questions because I'm someone that I can't run a conversation. And I know the jury questions aren't as much a conversation, but I work well when I'm led and what I have to talk
Mm,
about. And they really did do a good job in terms of, like, spreading out the different points of things I had to talk about. Because I think my opening and closing statements were dog shit. I had general stuff that I at least my opening statement was like, "Let me talk through a bit of a resume, like control of or a say in 9 out of 13 rounds, blah, 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 blah." But I needed to at least highlight that there were remnants of a social game and that I was involved in strategic moves and, like, I really just wanted to run down those points in the game where people had my back, like, highlight that Daniel, helped me with that HOH putting Robert up, highlight that I knew about that I was gonna be a backdoor by Jack, and that he knew about my dumb freaking Skype call or Skype video stuff. Um, like, point out that the people that wanted me gone left immediately after they wanted me gone, and I think that I just have to make sure that when I'm playing such a visible game through comps, sometimes that's all people are thinking about my game about, and that's like, okay, so we have Ange did all this. She's like, she even like the opening video for the finale. It was just like, oh, the social butterfly that's everyone's friend, and like Ange who maneuvers so strategic. It's like Ryan won competition. I was like, I just needed to remind people that there was other parts to my game because I knew they would understand it and I knew they would be able to see it once I pointed it out. Um, but again, like talking to the jurors that voted for me after, I really did. I just answered their questions how they wanted them answered, and like there was nothing I could have prepared for. Like
fair
Danielle's question was one I was so thrown off about. I was like, I had to like quickly think of like how to really tear apart. that flaw of Angelica's game on the spot. Um, and they screwed me by asking me to go first for all of those. I was like, God damn, like, and all Ange has to say is I won competitions and she didn't have to. It's like I really got to think about this for a second. Jeez, it's like should I
Uh,
have been thinking about that instead of painting my A and B flashcards to look like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air letters? Yeah, probably a little bit, but
um, so ultimately, you receive a vote to win the game from Jabbar, Daniel, Jack, Danielle, and
lands.
Lance. Were any of those surprising to you?
Yeah, I'd probably say about 4 out of 5 of those were surprising to me. Um, when I read the Facebook comment on the stream, like, after the whole thing was over, I was like I almost messaged my project. I was like, "Did you guys mistype?" I was like, "This doesn't make sense." Um, I was pretty no, I'd say 3 of them were surprises, and one's even a stretch. I think Daniel and Jabbar, I'm not surprised by, solely because I had those conversations with them. All
Mhm,
3 of us were kind of people that at least Daniel and I had to play against the odds for a large part of the game. And obviously I worked pretty closely with Daniel, so I figured he would respect it and respect the game that I had to play because we had those conversations. Um, I felt like I had Jabar's vote just because we are 2 people that were never afraid to really play big and just, like we played even looking at stuff back, like, we were both little lying, mischievous little rats the whole game. Like, that's just we enjoy the same aspects of these games. So and I think he saw that. It's kinda part of the reason, even before AJ's boot, that I thought if he was on the jury, I'd have his vote because, like, we were very much under the mindset of, like, play big and don't give a damn about what anybody else wants. Um, in terms of Danielle's vote, there's no way in hell I really thought I was fighting for Courtney's more than Danielle's. I thought Danielle was gonna vote for, Ange or Erica just because they did work so closely together, and I think people wanna vote for games that are similar to theirs. Um, but I think Danielle's someone that respects, like, that out front game. When I talked to her, she was like, "Yeah, it was your answer to my question that sold it. It was the whole thing, like, she hadn't thought of Angelica's game and, like, the scared hide behind other people's sense is a bad thing until my question answer. Um, and then Jack, I thought I did think I had going into jury questioning before it started. Then he asked his question, and I got all the shit I deserved from it. I everything he threw me in that questioning, I deserved the hell out of. Like saying the whole questioning that I played an honest game, and then Jack comes in and it's like, "Well, you did lie about me that whole you lied to me that whole round." Um, but I think he said he just wanted to hear about my social game, and I touched on it when I said that I knew about the whole meta. Like the fact that I knew about all that is what got me that vote. And then I don't know, me and Lance like had a good relationship that whole time. I think that I tried to stay as open as possible with him. I wanted to be someone that he could talk to when he won competitions or won HOHs, and I never like I always supported what he wanted to do and what his plans were, because I valued him as an ally and a friend in the game. So I think I think he just I guess he's somebody again that valued the more out in the open gameplay than what Angelica's was. But
yeah,
I know I thought maybe I had a chance at Courtney's. I think if I took Erica, I would have had a better chance at Courtney's, in that sense, but I may have lost other ones. So
fair enough. Um, I don't know. I mean, is there anything else that you would like to talk about or you'd like to address? I feel like we've covered. I feel like we've covered a lot of your game, and I feel like you've articulated yourself very well. And I said this to you the other day privately, but like you won in the end. And like I was just in a similar position as you, where I won a game that people were kind of like, well, was he the best? Or like, was this a good part? Or, like, was this like, and I went back and I read all the stuff and I looked at everything and I messaged you and I just said, like, take it all with a grain of salt. Cause You won in the end, and that's all that
It's
matters.
I think what's weird for me is, like, I've never been someone to care about what other people think of me. I will never be that person. I'm too I'm too polarizing to be that kind of person. I can't be the person I am and then get upset when, like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I think if anything that stinks is that this is my 2nd win, and my 1st win, I had the same stuff where it was very much like, what the hell just happened?" Like,
Mhm,
jury alliance bullshit that swung votes and blah blah blah. And I stand by my game that I played there, and I stand by my game here. I think that's if anything what threw me off at first. I was like, again.
not
I was like,
again,
two
yeah.
in a row, really. But no, I mean, again, I'm happy with everything I did. I do wish I played a little bit differently. I wish I didn't have to rely on competition wins, which is I think is why I wanted to sit here with the record so much because now it feels cool. I was like, I broke the record, and I'm the first person to then win after I broke the record. I didn't. I broke the curse that Susie, Dan, Amanda, etc. all set before me. Um, and it's one that I think I'm gonna have for a long time. So I think it's a double win in that sense. I do
Mhm.
still have to try Popeye chicken nuggets, because I still
Th
feel like
Fun
I still
fact,
have that
that
I
was
still have
no
that on my soul.
that was not Courtney. Yeah, that you did have that conversation with Courtney, but you did not originally have that conversation with Courtney.
Yeah, yeah, he
I think you had it with Julia, but then you said it to Courtney, about
no,
something.
Courtney messaged me out of nowhere and said, "Finally tried those Popeye chicken nuggets you were talking about," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, I love those." I didn't
So,
know
oh,
she was
I
trying to
just
message somebody else. I thought
maybe that's what it is, or maybe because she said something about you messaged her about it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. That's neither here nor there.
maybe
But
I may have I may have screwed up too and messaged her about. It's funny either way.
the Popeyes chicken nugget storyline and the
That's why
honestly,
I wish I
here,
had more of those. My Gleeks died so early. My Reba Reba stuck around for a while. Reba stuck until Dan left.
the chicken nuggets, the Reba, and the BBH super fan of it all. You were incredibly entertaining this season. Like you were incredibly compelling to watch. You have the classic underdog story, like, and you are the winner of Big Brother Hometowns 14. So
It's so gross I had to win the same way that Max Teddy did. I'm not gonna be able to live that down.
T. T.
He messaged me, he's like, "I won the same way." I'm like, "Fuck, great. That's the last thing I needed to."
Max did it.
But no, I
Max did it to himself though when he tried to backdoor his brother. Go watch BBH season 3 on YouTube. Here, let's plug the let's let's plug the Facebook. Where is it? There it is. Subscribe to the Big Brother Hometowns YouTube page. Um, yeah. So, well, is anything else? I'll throw you the floor.
no, I appreciate all the kind words during this and during the season. For all my VL stands, they know who they are. I know I had my cheerleaders in there, so I appreciate all the love. I wish I could go read that stuff and not all these damn prod videos,
Nope.
but no. Thank you to everybody. It's very exciting to be a part of history with BB Hometowns. So
Yeah. And we'll see you back inevitably for Winners at War at some point.
I can never play a Big Brother org again. Genuinely, I can't. I'll be the first boot. I'm gonna get backdoored round one and be gone. There's no chance. If any
Wow.
winners are watching this, hey, hit me up as soon as the season starts.
Hit him up for Winners at War pre-games. Okay,
No, no,
bye.
not free gaming. No, as soon as the season starts,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be waving a white flag.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with Erica and Angelica both for their exit interviews. I would love to do that. But until then, um, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching Big Brother Hometowns 14 and for making this one of the best places on the internet. Goodbye, everybody.